There comes a moment in life, one that only a few ever reach, when everything you thought was real begins to fall apart. The system you've been operating in, the events that shaped you, the beliefs you've held as facts, all of it crumbles in seconds, like a house of cards collapsing under its own illusion. The reality you once believed was unshakable. It disintegrates with a single move. The world no longer looks the way it once did, and this event has repeated itself throughout history. To give an example, Pyrrho of Elis was a Greek philosopher who traveled with Alexander the Great to India, where he encountered Eastern mysticism and deep spiritual thinkers. He became obsessed with understanding ultimate truth, trying to figure out what is real, what is certain, and how humans can know anything at all. But the deeper he went, the more he realized that every truth was followed by contradiction. Every belief, no matter how strong, could be doubted. Every argument had a counter-argument. So eventually, he gave up. He stopped chasing certainty. He stopped trying to solve reality. He suspended all judgment and let go of the idea that he needed to understand or control anything. And that's when something shifted. In that moment, when he decided to give up, everything around him started to collapse. His identity, his beliefs, his understanding of the world, gone. His body even changed. His pulse stopped. His thoughts disappeared. He said he became a witness to his own existence, rather than the one controlling it. But even though in that moment he lost everything he thought he had or knew, in reality, he gained everything. How is that? Well, in that moment of surrender, all the chains that once held him back in the box of limitations designed for him were broken. His experience suddenly shifted. It became more real, raw, and unfiltered. Not because he gained knowledge, but because the veil that covered the illusion he was once fed, the stories he once believed, was lifted. So what happens when you surrender? When you finally break out of the cycle of the corrupted system you were planted in? People think that at this moment, things in your life will fall into place, or you will gain some knowledge and the path will become clearer. But the truth is much stranger than that. At that moment, when you wake up, when everything collapses, you will lose. You will lose the system you once thought was your foundation, the facts you believed were real. You will feel lost and confused, like you're standing alone in the middle of a desert, and everything around you is just a hallucination. Then you start asking yourself, if everything you once thought was real turns out not to be, then what actually exists beyond that illusion? But that's the part no one prepares you for. When you reach that point, you start noticing things you were never meant to see, like how thoughts don't belong to you, but simply appear from somewhere unknown. Like how your sense of self, the thing you call I, isn't a solid entity. And that's where the fear kicks in. Because with this realization, you start to have out-of-body experiences. You realize your life decisions weren't really yours. The goals you set were hidden orders, and the emotions you feel towards situations were all programmed responses to desires you never truly wanted. That realization is terrifying. Because if you're not in control, then who is? But then, something even stranger happens. When awareness strips away the masks, you start to notice patterns, subtle, hidden forces guiding everything. Life's circumstances seem to respond to your awareness of them. For example, in quantum physics, when particles, like electrons or photons, are not observed, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern. But when they are observed, when a measuring device tracks which slit they go through, they behave like particles, and the interference pattern disappears. Meaning, the mere act of measuring or observing changes the outcome. It's as if consciousness itself has a direct effect on physical reality, what science calls the observer effect. Our awareness shapes the world we experience. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, they change. The universe starts to behave differently when you're watching it. Which begs the question, are you creating reality, or just observing the version you're allowed to see? What if reality isn't a thing at all? What if it's a living presence, something that watches you, responds to you, and shifts in real time? Not just something you move through, but something that moves with you, not separate from you, but inseparable from your awareness. That is called mirroring. Mirroring is a psychological and energetic phenomenon where people, or even reality itself, reflect back aspects of you, your beliefs, emotions, thoughts, or unresolved patterns, often without you realizing it. It happens on multiple levels, like in conversations and relationships where people often mirror each other's behavior, tone, or body language, usually unconsciously. It helps build rapport and trust. Or in emotional and relational mirroring. Other people, especially those who trigger you, often reflect parts of you haven't fully accepted, healed, or acknowledged. Once you start paying attention, you'll notice something deeply unsettling. The world outside of you isn't separate from the world within. Your fears, beliefs, emotions, they don't stay hidden in your mind. They echo, they reflect, they show up in the people you meet, the situations you attract, and the reality you think is random. The truth is, you're not just living in the world, you're projecting onto it. Like when you are worried or anxious, you feel as if your whole surroundings are in chaos. But when you start controlling these thoughts and emotions, they calm down, and you realize things aren't as bad or messed up as you thought. Or when you're in a more balanced state, people and even situations shift in your favor. At first, it might feel like coincidence, but when things start aligning more often, patterns, people, moments, you begin to realize the world isn't just happening to you, it's happening because of you. The thoughts you whisper to yourself before sleep, the instant reactions you have in difficult situations, the emotions you bury or repeat without question, these aren't just internal noise. They're the blueprint, and together, they shape the reality you wake up to every single day. And this is where most people resist. But once you embrace this fact, once you truly wake up, that's the moment everything shifts. The entire game changes. Reality starts bending in ways you never imagined. The illusions begin to crack. And for the first time, you don't just look at the world, you see it. And when your eyes finally open, things start to alter all around you. Not because reality itself has changed, but because the lens you were looking through has dissolved. What you thought was truth was just a reflection of your belief. And once that filter fades, you don't see a new world. You see the real one for the first time. But here's the real question. Are you ready to see it for what it truly is? Because once you do, there's no going back. Now is your time to wake up. You now know the ultimate truth, and it's up to you to decide whether you will take the lead or remain a passive bystander in your own story, a mere supporting character. The choice you make today will shape the life you've been waiting for, so choose wisely. And if you're still not fully grasping that you hold the power to shape your life, stick around, because this is just the beginning.